Good morning. Today we're reading in Genesis chapter 23. Sarah lived 127 years. These were the years of the life of Sarah. Sarah died in the land of Canaan, and Abraham went in to mourn for Sarah and to weep for her. As Abraham arose from before his dead and said to the Hittites, I am a sojourner and foreigner among you. Give me the property among you for a burying place, that I may bury my dead out of sight. And the Hittites answered Abraham, Hear us, my Lord, you are a prince of God among us. Bury your dead in the choicest of our tombs. None of us will withhold from you his tomb to hinder you from burying your dead. But Abraham rose and bowed to the Hittites, the people of the land, and said, If you're willing that I should bury my dead out of my sight, hear me and entreat me that he may give me the cave of Machpelah, which he owns. It is at the end of the field. For the full price, let him give it to me in your presence as a property for a burying place. And then skipping on to the end of the chapter. So the field of Ephron, the field with the cave that was in it, and all the trees that were in the field throughout its whole area, was made over to Abraham as a possession in the presence of the Hittites before all who went in at the gate of this city. After this, Abraham buried Sarah, his wife, in this cave. So I'm reading this over and over, trying to figure out, what is it God is telling us? First of all, Sarah and Abraham had lived in Hebron it's about 20 miles from what would become Jerusalem. Today, Hebron is actually in Palestine. Canaan today encompasses Israel, the West Bank, Gaza, Jordan, and the southern portions of Syria and Lebanon. So consider where those countries are today. Now, it's interesting to me that Sarah is distinctly noted. She's the only woman in the Bible whose age, death, and burial are specifically noted. So why is that important? She was highly regarded for her faithfulness to the Lord. Paul also mentions her in Hebrews and Galatians. We find that when she died, Abraham mourned. He lamented her death and he wept. In this day and time, often mourners were hired to come and wail very loudly and weep and make all kinds of noises and sounds to show how important the person was that died. And I think this is really important to recognize that Sarah was precious to Abraham. So he not only mourned, but he wept for her. Tears were a tribute to how special she was to him. And he wanted her to have a special burial place. So God acknowledges, Abraham acknowledges that he is only a foreigner in that land. He doesn't own any land in Canaan in which to bury Sarah. Now, he had lived there in the past. He actually built an altar to God. I think it was about Genesis 13. He knew the area. He knew the cave. He knew what he wanted. It had all these trees around it. Caves were often used for shelter, for burial, places of birth. The Hittites offered him the land and the cave as a gift. Now, you have to ask yourself, why wouldn't he take that? Instead of paying an enormous amount of money for it, why wouldn't he take it as a gift? The offer seemed genuine because they honored him. Now, this negotiation that's going on is normal in the Middle Eastern culture. It can go on for minutes, for hours, for days. It's a haggling kind of a thing, very, very normal. You never accept the first price of anything in that area of the world. Perhaps Abraham didn't want him to be in debt to someone else for his burial cave. Perhaps he wanted to purchase the land so he'd have an investment in that land. Later, we learned that Abraham, Isaac, Rebekah, Jacob, and Leah were also buried in that cave. So why so much detail about this negotiation, about the land, about the trees, and all this description through these verses? Perhaps without a battle of any kind, just some friendly haggling, the people of God have become their occupation, have begun their occupation of the land that God promised Abraham for his offspring. What God promises, he delivers. Faithfulness and obedience describe Abraham and Sarah. May we be faithful and obedient to the Lord, regardless of the cost. Have a wonderful day.